Okay, I think that we can start our webinar today and allow people to keep signing on. Welcome, everybody. My name is Paloma Garcia Lopez, and I'm the Associate Director of the Institute for Latino Studies. As many of you know, our mission is to increase the understanding of the fastest growing and youngest population in the United States and in the U.S. Catholic Church. ILS strengthens the University of Notre Dame's mission to prepare transformative leaders in all sectors of society, including the professions, the arts, business, politics, faith, and family life. And we want all of our students, staff, and faculty to take part in understanding and advancing the future of the Latino community in the United States. Next year, ILS celebrates its 25th anniversary, and it took many students and alumni to start the Institute and to keep it going over all of these years. So it's a great honor for us to convene this webinar with 5 outstanding alumni that are active in the Hispanic Alumni of Notre Dame, as well as have active histories as students here on campus, which we'll hear about today. I now want to turn it over to Cristina Gonzalez, the chair of HAND, so she can tell us more about their mission.
Thank you, Paloma. So as she said, my name is Cristina Gonzalez, and I am the chair this year. I'm honored to be the chair. Can you hear me? Because it tells me to, okay. It tells me to unmute, and I'm like, I'm unmuted, I know. So I'm the chair. I'm honored to serve as the chair of the Hispanic Alumni of Notre Dame. And we have a great board with us. And one thing that I wanted to make sure that you all know and understand is what our purpose is. Our purpose is we're here representing all Latino, Latine, Latinx, Hispanic, however, whatever descriptor you choose to use, but we're here to represent you and make sure that there is programming available that addresses your concerns, that is of interest to you, and that speaks to you. We want to make sure that all of our alumni stay connected with our university because that's what joins us and that's what makes us all part of the same family and part of our Notre Dame family. Currently, we're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, and this is one of our signature events where we present this panel of alumni from different areas in the United States and also different professions. We wanted to do it initially to help provide mentorship opportunities because students were asking for that, specifically Hispanic and Latino students were asking for people who looked like them to help mentor them and provide them with some guidance. So that's what we started to do. But this is also a good opportunity to really highlight what amazing alumni we have and what amazing students we have that then will become our alumni, and also the faculty that help them to foster those relationships and to foster them to become the great alumni that we know they all are. You hopefully have received our newsletter, which we just put out on Tuesday, and it has a lot of information, a lot of the things that we'll be talking about today. If you didn't get one, make sure that you have signed up at Somos ND, Somos ND at alumni.nd.edu. And so you can make sure and get all of our information. Also, there are 2 opportunities for mentorships. We're encouraging through Interconnected ND and also Irish Compass. They're specifically looking for first-gen alumni to be mentors to first-gen students. So if you haven't already signed up with Irish Compass, please go onto Irish Compass, sign up as a mentor, and include in there, there's a very specific directions, but you can include in there that you are first-gen so that they can match you up with a student. Also, and Alfredo will talk about this a little bit later, one of our panelists, who's also one of our board members, when we were on campus a couple of weeks ago and we met with students, one of the things that they said they really wanted was mentors, but specific mentors in specific professions and maybe even specific geographic areas, because they want to hear the truth, right? They want to hear the real cheeseman. They want to hear what the real world is like from someone that looks like them and comes from a background that they're familiar with. So we're going to be sending out some information and requests to our alumni to match up our students with alumni. So please also be on the lookout for that. We want to know what's going on in your communities, in your areas, in your local clubs. We encourage you to get involved in your local clubs and also provide programming in your local clubs that's specific to our Hispanic alumni and our Latinos alumni. And we want to hear what you're doing. We want to see what you're doing. Send us your pictures, tag us in your photos, in your posts, so that we can put it out and show everybody the amazing programming and our amazing alumni and what we're doing throughout the United States. Dia de los Muertos is coming up. We have a toolkit that's available for you to use in your individual clubs and ideas of what to do to celebrate. We're also going to be working on a virtual altar through Faith ND. And so that's something that, again, you can participate in. It's very easy. We're making this programming very easy for you to get involved. Get involved in your local clubs and then also get involved with Hispanic alumni throughout the United States. If there are some local events that you want to host at your local clubs, and maybe you're having some issues with getting it planned, contact us, reach out to us, and we can help you with planning that. We may even be able to provide some funding for you. So make sure and know that we are a resource for you in order to have that programming in your local clubs. You've seen our Yo Amo ND shirts and Somos ND shirts. We have a few of those left of the Yo Amo ND, and Carlos might be talking to you about a little bit about that later also. He's another one of our board members. So if you want to buy that merch, reach out to us and we can get that to you. We're working on a new design. You may see some emails and information from us about that as well. So be on the lookout for that. We're super excited about it. And we also want to hear what you're doing. We want to hear about you. We want to see where you are and what you're doing. So send us that information and we want to put it out on what we're calling our Orale section. We want to shout out to all the amazing things that our alumni are doing. And so that's what we're here for. We're that resource here and that liaison and that contact for you. So I've spoken enough already. I want you to get to these great panelists. So thank you so much all for being here. Paloma, I send it back to you.
Thank you so much, Cristina. Before you go, could you tell us your vocation, your year you graduated, so our students know they can also reach out to you if they're in the same field?
Yeah, absolutely. So I graduated in 1989, the last year we won a national championship. And I was in Pascagoula East. I'm an attorney and I live in New York City.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go in the order of how the alumni appear on my screen. So it's not favoritism, okay? Zoom decided what order you're in. We'll start with, we have 4 alumni panelists today, and I'll briefly say their affiliations. We have Dr. Carlos Gomez-Meade with us today, originally from Brownsville, Texas. And he has a medical degree. He is a surgeon that specializes in cutaneous oncology. I think I said it right, I'm not sure. He can correct us. And he is on the HAND board as Director of Alumni Relations. We also have with us in the wonderful shirt and the sign behind, true to Blue People as its CIO, is Alfredo Arvide, who has 20 years of experience as a marketing executive and technology expert, and he will tell us about his experience as a student and in working in his field. Next, we have Kelly Rivera Salazar, who, as I'm reading her bio, was captain of the cheerleading team at Notre Dame at her time here. Wow, how fun. And we'll think of that every time we go and see the cheer team. But she has a Bachelor of Arts in History and Sociology from Notre Dame and got a law degree at Baylor Law. And she currently resides in Hidalgo County, which is in the news a lot. And so we're eager to hear about that. Welcome. And then, of course, we have Dr. Joaquin Cigarroa, and he is from the Texas border city of Laredo, and also attended medical school and did the residency and fellowships in cardiovascular disease and interventional cardiology. So we have a panel of intellectuals, very accomplished people. We are so excited to have you here. Seeing you puts some real flesh to the ideas that many of our students watching today have about who they want to be and what they want to do when they leave this beautiful place. So my first question today for all of you as your moderator is for you to talk about the leadership activities you were involved in as an undergrad and how that relates to what you're involved in now in your career. So if you could each take a couple of minutes, starting with Dr. Carlos Meade. Could you tell us about your experiences as an undergrad and today in terms of your involvement?
Sure. So I started, well, first of all, I lived in Keenan Hall. I was there at class of '01, and received my undergraduate degree from Notre Dame. And I guess to answer the question would be, I was involved in some service opportunities. Habitat for Humanity was one of them while I was undergraduate there. And I was so, I came from Brownsville, Texas, and it's not to put any impressions out there, but I had a challenge as I went to Notre Dame as far as keeping up with the competition while I was there, and so the vast majority of my time and dedication was to studying and make sure I could stay afloat and do well and do what it took to get into medical school. So I didn't really, I had a lot of friends that were involved in a vast majority of opportunities, leadership roles throughout the different services and groups that were available while at Notre Dame. Realistically, I really wasn't that involved. I spent most of my time in Hesburgh Library and in some dark corner somewhere, and that was a summary of my extra time, I guess you could say, during my 4 years. But the service that I was able to do has allowed me to kind of continue that, and we have to remember that we come from a Catholic university, and the heart of the Catholic mission and ministry is service, right? And so serving the poor, feeding the hungry, visiting the sick, and that's something that has really I've been able to relay even to this day. My wife and I started a nonprofit organization to help provide supplies for the homeless population here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's something that we try to stay pretty active with, and it all started at Notre Dame because it was just the heart and soul of campus is to serve as a force for good, right? And so that's something that got ingrained in me very early in my undergraduate years that I've been able to continue even this far out.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it is leadership to dedicate yourself to your academics. That's the number one priority while you're here. So thanks for sharing that. Oh, well, let's go next on my screen. We've got Alfredo.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Alfredo, and I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for Blue People. We are a custom software development company founded in Mexico, and we're currently expanding into the U.S. market. And as you can see, I'm in our new office in Houston, so we're really excited about that. But in terms of leadership activities, we were talking about the question that I was involved in as an undergrad. I think I have to preface my comments just a little bit by saying that when I got to campus, I knew exactly what I wanted to study. My parents ran a technology equipment sales company in Ciudad Juarez, so I grew up around technology. I was fortunate enough to play with the latest tech all the time. So there really was no doubt in my mind I wanted to study computer engineering and just have a career in tech. So all of the activities I did and I signed up for were naturally in technology. For example, I was the computer assistant for the Institute for Latino Studies, for ILS, a long time ago, where I got to work with a database where we were looking at all the articles, the press releases, journals, and we were trying to catalog them to make them easier for citations. So that was fun. And again, think about this early in 2000. I graduated in 2005, if I didn't mention that, computer engineering. So we didn't have the powerful Google that we have now, right? So we had to do a lot of that ourselves. I was also the webmaster for the Office of Residence, Life and Housing, ORLH, where I was asked to make updates and announcements for incoming freshmen. Some parents were starting to look at nd.edu as the location where you could get some of that information. So it was pretty cool to be there in creating that website and that resource for those students. And I got to work inside main building, so under the dome. So that was really, really nice. What else? I enjoyed being a peer mentor, teaching assistant for the introduction to engineering classes. I even got to spend time at the Potawatomi Zoo, as part of the EPICS program. EPICS was engineering projects in community service, I think. Yeah, EPICS. It was really just community service to the zoo, where we were implementing a technology-based patron tracking system to easily understand what popular and what was unpopular in terms of exhibits. So again, really, really fun there. And lastly, I was also editor-in-chief for the Technical Review my senior year, which was the engineering school's student-run magazine. But I think you also asked, how we're involved or, in our current career, which if you can fast forward to today, I serve on multiple boards. For example, I'm on the board of directors for Latino Professionals. This organization aims to raise awareness of success in Latino community. And its mission is really to increase the number of Latino executives to boost our collective decision-making power. As Christina mentioned, I'm also on the HAND board as student relations, and I love to hear the students and, when they raise their hands and they say, hey, I have an offer in Chicago and I have an offer in LA. I want to talk to an alumni to tell me, where should I go? I need to make a decision. And so we're looking at all the alumni to help us with current students. And lastly, but interestingly enough, I'm also a volunteer for the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, which actually takes about 30,000 volunteers to run the rodeo. So that's a fun fact in Houston. And if you're Houston, but that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much. We now go to Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Salazar, class of 2000 and Alliance Hall former resident. As far as activities involved in while at Notre Dame, I was a work-study kid, and unfortunately I wasn't especially skilled like Alfredo in IT, so I spent a lot of my time in the basement of South Hall dining room, or in the basement at that time of the old, not as fancy bookstore. But those were great times in terms of motivating myself to achieve good things in life and build upon my experience. In addition, like mentioned earlier, I was lucky enough to be selected for the Notre Dame cheerleading team and to ultimately serve as captain, which is like the peak. I'm hoping that's not the peak in my life, but it's pretty close. It's a great item to discuss at social or networking gatherings for sure. But what was really great about it, not just being, on the, ground floor of the football games, I had the best seat in the house of any sporting event for sure, but you get to serve as an ambassador for the best university in the country. And I can't imagine anything better than that. The people that you got to meet, the impressions you got to make. I mean, a highlight too was I got to be on the cover of our hometown newspaper, the Monitor, as a source of pride for my area, and that's still my hometown newspaper. But it's important that other folks know from whatever area you're from. It doesn't matter where you're from, whether it's from Hidalgo County, which has been in the news, which is a great place to live, by the way, for anyone listening. It's safe and it's family oriented. It's culturally rich. Come visit us. You'll love it. You may not leave. But anybody from anywhere can achieve anything that they set their mind to, and they work hard enough. So those are kind of the leadership roles that I was lucky enough to participate in while at Notre Dame. And fast forward to present time, I serve on several boards. I'm the president of our Hidalgo County Bar Association and president-elect of our local Chamber of Commerce. I was also elected to serve as Hidalgo County Democratic Party chair for a period of time as well. But like mentioned before by Dr. Gomez-Meade, a huge takeaway from my time at Notre Dame was the importance of community involvement and giving back to the community. I wasn't raised with that emphasized because my parents were building up their career and focused on making sure we were on our way and had all the right tools for success. So that was amazing. But I was able to bring that back home with me and hopefully teach my children that as well moving forward. So that's about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
now we have Dr. Joaquin Cigarroa.
There we go. Sorry, I was muted. Thanks, Paloma. So, like Paloma mentioned, I'm originally from Laredo. I am a class of 09. I resided in Keogh Hall, and I currently live in Austin. So, I think similarly to Carlos, during my time at Notre Dame, I didn't hold any formal leadership positions because I was so immersed in my studies. My preferred choice of place of study, however, was Como, because they had free popcorn. I don't know if you guys remember that. But I did really, really love my dorm. And so I did help out organizing whenever there was a dorm event. And so in Keogh, I don't know if they still have the chariot races, and anytime we had any sort of social event. During my medical training, however, I did serve as something that's called the chief resident, where you're in charge of the day-to-day work of all of the trainees under you. And so initially I wasn't too thrilled about the position because I was in charge of all the scheduling, but it actually ended up being a pretty rewarding experience. Prior to moving to Austin, I moved back to my hometown of Laredo, and while I was there, I served on the board of the Boys and Girls Club, which was a really enriching experience. My most demanding and enriching leadership role, however, has been just being co-captain of our household with my wife, Katie, who's also a Notre Dame grad. We have 4 kids and a 5th one on the way. So you can imagine, I think it takes a lot of leadership stuff in the home for it to run. And so thank you all so much for having me.
Well, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. I'd now like to remind our audience members, there is the Q&A function. We cannot see you, you see us, and the only way we can hear from you is through the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and we will leave some time for that at the end. Our next question is, what advice would you have for yourself? You know, looking back when you were an undergrad, what would you tell yourself to do more of or less of, or to forgive yourself for? Or cheer yourself on for? And when you were here, did you have a mentor? Let's start with Kelly.
Well, I have so many thoughts, right? So, so as far as advice as I was a student, it's okay not to be great at everything. You know, I really tried my best. I was at Hesburgh Hall studying those long nights, and I just could not understand biology and organic chemistry to save my life. And so I had to make a choice. Like, am I going to continue, pursuing this and not being the best or at all very good, or make a switch? And it is okay to make a switch. It's okay to listen to your gut and do something different. And the payoff can be great. Not everyone is meant to be a doctor or to be a lawyer, and you can still be a success in life. So I would just say, forgive yourself and try your best and know when to switch gears. Listen to people. I didn't have a mentor to tell me that, but if anyone's listening and struggling and spending way too much time in the library and it's not paying off, it's okay to change. You can still get a good job and still be a leader in your community. And forgive yourself for not being great. Just do something else. So
thank you so much. So we do have 2 doctors. So let's hear from Dr. Joaquin Cigarroa. What would you tell yourself advice-wise? And did you have a mentor back then?
I think the greatest piece of advice that I would tell myself back then is just to shed that imposter syndrome early. I think coming from Laredo, as Cristina knows, it's a smaller town, and Kelly, 99% Hispanic. Half of my classmates in high school commuted every day from Mexico. So getting to Notre Dame was really, really intimidating. I think what made it even tougher was just the transition to the classes at Notre Dame were so difficult. I think I got like a 30-something on my first chemistry test, a 50-something on my first calculus test. And so I've definitely felt for the first at least semester to my probably the whole first year is that I just didn't belong. And I felt like I could have alleviated a lot of that undue burden on myself had I believed that I was picked to be a part of the Notre Dame family the same way that the other 2,000 students were, and that I wasn't there because of some like glitch in the system. And I did have value to give to the student body. And I think it took time for me, again, to understand that I belonged and that I did have a unique perspective coming from where I did that carried the same value as a student from Chicago or a student from the Midwest. I think, or from the Northeast. And I think during my time at Notre Dame, I had amazing professors, and I always try to take advantage of their office hours. I remember after my first calculus exam, when I went to my professor's office and I told him, I said, listen, I'm going to fail out of here, and I need help. And I remember him just kind of alleviating some of that anxiety, and we got to talking about tequila or something. And then he says, don't worry, we'll get you through this. And I ended up, I think, with a B in the class at the end of the semester. And so I think there were so many great professors that were so approachable throughout my time at Notre Dame, that really elevated me. And so I think that's kind of what my biggest.
Thank you for your honesty. I think that's very helpful advice. How about you, Dr. Gomez-Meade? What advice would you have had for yourself?
A lot of with what Joaquin said was actually spot on. I think it's a matter of being proud of where we come from, being proud of being no matter where you come from, but being your own representative of who you are, what your family raised you to be, what your experiences brought you to Notre Dame, and always using that as a strength as opposed to a weakness on campus to show, look, you're a unique person. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and your strengths are stronger than what you can imagine. And everybody on campus is unique. Everyone on campus has their own skill set, and some people are excellent at math. And if you're not necessarily good at math, I remember, one thing I guess if I were to give myself advice was to use all the multiple resources that are available on campus, because they are endless. And there's teachers' assistants that are willing to work with you. And it probably took me a good year to realize that, look, I could just walk down campus that's like literally a block away, maybe in La Fortune, and meet with a tutor and get some help with some math or science or whatever it was that I needed. But just like Joaquin, I mean, it was like, definitely the deer in headlights kind of scenario for me as well. Once I got there, I was, in the big leagues, and I didn't come from the big leagues. And so it took a good amount of time to transition into the surrounding competition. And, but I remember when I was an RA in Keenan Hall, my 4th year, you finally get this retrospective mirror of like, okay, what did I do in the last 4 years? And you realize the things that you're really good at and the things that you may not necessarily be good at. And it's perfectly normal to not be good at everything. Like Kelly was saying, there's ways to use your strengths to your advantages, and you can still prosper in whatever you decide to do. One thing that I was very, very blessed to have the experience of doing while at Notre Dame, that I wouldn't necessarily give advice to myself again, but I'd give advice to any students that are listening. If you get the opportunity to study abroad, that was a fantastic experience. I got to study in Toledo, Spain for a semester, of course, a non-football playing semester. And so that'd be a lot to ask for, but it was one of the greatest experiences I had in the whole, collage of experiences that I had at Notre Dame. It was amazing. It's memorable. The friends that I made there are still friends that I keep in touch with now. And then finally, the last piece of advice I would give to myself, back then would be, don't lose touch of the friends you make there. That's something that can happen in any stage of life. If you don't make an effort, you lose touch of your high school friends. If you don't make an effort, you're going to lose touch of your Notre Dame friends. And you are so eerily similar to the people you're surrounded in Notre Dame that they will easily and quickly become some of the best friends you'll ever have. And I know they have for me. A lot of my roommates, we still keep in touch. When I go to their cities, I text them and we have a cup of coffee together. So we're constantly maintaining each other's friendships, and we've been to each other's weddings and everything. And so don't lose touch of the folks that you're surrounded by, because they will probably be the closest friends you have for the rest of your life.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And let's go over to Alfredo. What did Alfredo, as an undergrad, need to hear?
This question really hits home right now. Specifically, I also have 4 kids. My oldest, he's 10, going on 18, and I find myself seeing a lot of me in him, and I feel like when I'm correcting him, I'm a bit hypocritical because I would probably be doing the same thing. So when I think about what advice I would have for myself, I'm kind of reliving it right now. And my mom would probably say, "Te dije," but okay. So I digress. If I'm really honest with myself and transparent with you all, I don't think I have any regrets from my college years from Notre Dame. I made some mistakes. Everybody made mistakes, and if I can go back and avoid them, that would probably be good. But nothing really stands out that I could tell 18-year-old me. And the reason I think why I feel that way is because I don't know if y'all remember in the 90s there was this trend. It was a logo that used to say "No fear," N-O fear, no fear. That was it. It was very popular. And when I started freshman year of high school, I joined NHI, National Hispanic Institute, and it was a very competitive program to go in there. And the motto was "No fear." And I took it very literal. And I said, okay, I'm going to put myself out there and I'm just going to go sin miedo, no fear, right? And so there was a mentor in college that would tell me, somebody that I confided in, and they would tell me, I don't really care if you fail or make a mistake. It's really about how you recover. And that really took me back. And I said, okay, when you approach new endeavors in life without any fear, specifically no fear of failure, then it really opens up all possibilities to do whatever you want, right? You can do it all. It was also hard for me to go from Texas all the way to Indiana, right? Meeting new people. It was not the safe choice, but approaching it without that fear, without that miedo, I guess I could go back and tell myself, keep going, buddy. Sin miedo, si se puede.
Yes, definitely. Sin miedo. So let's circle back to the purpose of HAND and what some of the priorities might be right now. So there's 3 of you here today that are on the board. So Cristina, can you tell us what the priorities are right now? And if Alfredo wants to chime in, or Carlos, please.
Sure, yeah. So as I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, one of our primary focuses right now is mentorship, and mentorship with students and even maybe with other alumni. That it doesn't exclude you if you've already graduated, you still may need a mentor in a specific field, a profession or something. So, as I mentioned, Interconnected ND and Irish Compass are looking specifically for first-gen alumni to be mentors to students. So we'd like to, for a lot of people to respond and be able to do that. And also, and Alfredo, you want to talk a little bit about the student event and the student reach out?
Sure, because additionally to that, right, we want folks to volunteer and mentor Irish Compass. All of those things are great. Additionally, when we were on campus a couple of weeks ago, we were asking the students, we had about 75 students or more show up, and we said, what's on your mind, right? And one of the things was, how do I get myself prepared for the next step in life? How do I get ready to be in the workforce? And we told them, well, would it help to have a mentor that's been there, done that in your current situation, whether it's the same industry, the same geographical area where you're trying to go to? Would that be helpful? And everybody raised their hand. We said, okay, perfect. So in addition to this Irish Compass, we want to do a curated program where we're going to talk to the students that want to find a mentor. We're going to ask them, what specifically are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for a technologist. I'm looking for a doctor. I'm looking for a lawyer. I'm looking for this. I'm looking for someone in this area. And we're going to go and find alumni to match them up so that conversation is a little bit more engaging. So what we need is for all alumni to also volunteer and say, hey, I'm in this industry. I've been in this industry for 20 years. I've been in this location for 25 years, or I used to live here. I've been in, overseas. Tell us all that information so that we can make it a little bit easier to match with the students and have those productive conversations.
Right, thanks. And some other things we're working on. We want to do some new programming. So we'd love to hear from you what kinds of things you like. Carlos, do you want to talk a little bit about the Family Volunteer Program also?
So one thing I was really privileged to do recently, last couple of years, was to do what's called Family Volunteer Camp. And it's kind of a little known gem that you can do as a Notre Dame alum. And actually, you can actually be a student as well. But the gist of it is basically you invite your family and you live in the dorm for a week during the summer. And you do a different volunteer service in the South Bend community every day with your family, with your kids, with your husband, with your wife, with your whoever you want to bring. This year, I even brought 2 friends of ours, a good friend of mine who is from Chihuahua, Mexico, and his son that go to church with us, and our family's really close, and we're always getting together. And I said, I came back and from last year's experience, and I said, listen, if I get the opportunity to do this again, you guys have to do this. This is amazing. And he's actually studying to be he's in the deacon program here locally. So it was an awesome opportunity for him to just see a glimpse of the beauty of Notre Dame from the spiritual side and the service side. And it was so eye-opening for him. I mean, it was just, it was awesome. But I mean, for me as well, that's why I'm the kind of guy where if I experience something good, I love sharing it with other people, because I like to share that good with others. And so that was something that I was just immediately wanting to share. So Family Volunteer Camp is exactly that. It happens 3 weeks in July. It's a lottery-based system, so a lot of applicants because there was only so many rooms in Bomber Hall. And so if you get chosen, you know, it's awesome. I really strongly encourage you to apply. But again, it's kind of one of those emails that we get during the year that you may not even see, or you might just kind of scroll through and you got to click one little link to get registered. And so I kind of stumbled across it last year, and I was able to do it again this year. But the goal that being on the hand board with Alfredo and Cristina, this is my first year of having the role of Director of Alumni Relations. And what a great group to work with. It couldn't be any better. We saw each other a couple of weeks ago, and it was just had a blast, and we're extremely productive. And so my initial kind of instinctive goal was to establish that Family Volunteer Camp, but for the Hispanic alumni. And so as I did service in the South Bend community, there's a big Spanish-speaking community in the South Bend community that we can focus on, and we can bring Hispanic alumni onto campus with their families. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a week. We can start with baby steps, maybe during fall break, like a Thursday, Friday, and that kind of thing, and provide at least a couple days of service to the Hispanic Spanish-speaking population of South Bend. And so that's my initial goal on the board for this year, is to get that ball rolling, so that hopefully we can get it up and running by maybe next year. And there's going to be a little bit of details involved, but what greater way to reach out to alumni, and especially us Hispanic alumni, and reach out to the Spanish-speaking community, because I was the only Spanish-speaking person on the surface this past 2 years, and so nobody spoke Spanish. And so when we came across, some Spanish-speaking people of need that we were providing service to, it was like, wow, there's actually a huge need, but nobody to provide that service for them, at least to bond with them in a language perspective. And so so that's going to be my goal on the board here in the near future.
Yeah, and we have a couple of other things. We want to encourage our different local alumni groups and clubs to really explore Hispanic Heritage Month, and to really explore whatever diversity activities that they're having. Diverse activity is not just going to a Mexican restaurant, right? I mean, and we need to really show them all of the different aspects of all of the wonderful culture of all Latin and Hispanic communities. I mean, it's not just, one thing that we've kind of been talking about too, we feel like sometimes maybe Hispanic alumni, we're a little bit Mexico-centric, right? Because we're all Mexican American, and we're very proud of that. but they're Puerto Ricans and Brazilians and, you know, every Dominicans. I mean, there's so many different other cultures that we all embrace. And so we really want to start focusing also on all the different aspects of our beautiful culture and history.
And can I interject there real quick, Christina? Just to kind of touch on that point, is that's really important that we reach out to the international brothers and sisters, alumni from Notre Dame that, you know, they're bigger Notre Dame fans than you can imagine. I know my 4th year, I hung out with a bunch of those guys and they're from all over the country. And again, they remain probably my closest friends. They're from Honduras and Guatemala and Argentina and all over Latin America. And they go to the Notre Dame games and they go to the bowl games and they go to the tailgates, but they kind of feel like they're in some sort of limbo because they're not necessarily, you know, American, or maybe they don't really have a place. But we want to reach out to them as a board and say, hey, you're a Hispanic alumni too, and that does include the Brazilians who a couple of weeks ago we were given the statistics, which are now the largest student Hispanic, international Hispanic population are Brazilians. And so it's really interesting. And so anyway, we have to find ways to reach out to them. They're kind of just like waiting at the starting line to get motivated and active within the Hispanic alumni. And they also are extremely, you know, professional, successful in their countries as well. And so they're great resources for a lot of our students as well.
Yeah.
So that's a great segue to our next question. Let's spend more time talking about your professional successful experiences. You know, all of you are where our current student population hopes to be someday. You know, you got there, that's what they're working for right now. So can you tell us about an experience that has taught you a lesson? Let's start with Kelly.
I was hoping you wouldn't call me first, but hold on. It says unmute me. You can hear me, right?
We can hear you just fine.
Okay. Well, I reflect on my time at Notre Dame, you know, when I wasn't pulling in the A's that I was used to in high school, which got me admission to Notre Dame. And it didn't, the same thing I was doing in high school wasn't working in college. So you had to pivot and figure out what worked. And once I did, then I was off and running. So I carry that experience with me every day in my professional career. You know, if the method that I utilize is not working, maybe it's a me problem and it's not it's not a them problem. And so I'm in constant reflection when it comes to that kind of stuff. And when it comes to leadership roles, the same rule applies. Self-evaluation, I think, is so important. Not only that, but getting outside your comfort zone as well can lead to huge successes in your career and your professional growth. Even the times where you're at your wit's end and you just think there's no way I can push through, and you take that extra step that you thought you couldn't step, and then you have a breakthrough, and then you grow so much as an individual, and that'll help you build and grow and grow. So that's kind of a little off your question, but I just think it's so important to convey the message that getting outside your comfort zone and challenging yourself beyond what you think you can handle is so important to your growth in your career and your personal growth as well. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Dr. Cigarroa, can you tell us about an experience that taught you a lesson in your professional life?
Sure. So I think I mentioned that during my training, I had to make the schedule for a lot of trainees that were under me. And that was always a very anxiety provoking thing to do, just because no one was ever happy. Who was going to have to work on Christmas? Who was going to have to work on Thanksgiving? Who was going to have maternity time off? And so I think at that time, initially, the way that I approached that position was just, hey, everyone's a name on a spreadsheet and the spreadsheet has to work, and too bad. But I think what I learned from that is, you know, and so that wasn't a great way to approach it, because I think people, it just kind of, I isolated myself from the people that I was supposed to mentor and to serve an example as an example for. So I think that one of the things that I took from that was that in order to be an effective leader, I think it's important to just form a connection with your team, whether that's, you know, knowing their family, their favorite sports team, their favorite food, whatever, and not just viewing them as you know, as a name on a spreadsheet. I think that's kind of what I took from that experience.
Yes, indeed. Alfredo, would you like to share a lesson you've learned from a professional experience?
Yeah, sure. What I have learned as a leader, after being in the workforce for close to 20 years now, it actually boils down to one very simple concept. And I've been living my professional life by this mantra for years now. But it wasn't until my colleague Alberto was the one that he helped me put into words. And one day he told me, Alfredo, Blue People is friends with everyone. Blue People, my company. Somos amigos de todos. And to me, that was, that's my aha moment, right? Because when I was younger in my career, I had my, career on overdrive. I was go, go, go. I wasn't necessarily rude to anybody, but I was laser focused on my progress. And when I really took the time to stop, help others, mentor, advise, that's when I started to achieve my personal satisfaction, fulfillment within my career, and I was helping others at the same time. So, for example, at Blue People, we don't see other development companies as sworn enemies or anything like that. We look at them as potential partners. Maybe they can help us in the future, or maybe we can help them. So that really is my advice. Very simple. Reach out, help out, be available, be optimistic, be friends with everyone as much as you can. Somos amigos de todos.
Great. Thank you so much. Carlos, would you like to share anything?
Yeah, sure. So, what experience? I mean, wow. Joaquin, can tell you in medicine, you have an experience that changes your life every day, I think most of the days, but just like Joaquin, I was chief resident of my dermatology residency. And that role particularly, you learn how to listen much more than speak. And I think leadership comes with being able to listen to your constituents in such a way where it becomes very broad and you're able to process it and you don't rush into any decisions. And it teaches you to understand fully and be able to process and digest the people, the concerns of those who you're trying to serve and help. And then very slowly and cautiously and methodically and diplomatically, you learn to use that information to end up helping them as best as possible. I'm also on a national board of college dermatology, and I've been in that role about 4 years. And my first reaction is to, just like Alfredo said, start to do. And then you realize quickly that you just kind of like a mouse in a mouse wheel or whatever, and you're not really going anywhere. And then as soon as you stop doing and you stop undoing and really listening to, like I said, the concerns, the trajectory that you want to go to, and do things very slowly and methodically, that has been definitely a big learning lesson that I've learned through the few leadership roles that I have. And now that has helped me tremendously being on the board with HAND now, because these are skills that it took me years to really figure out how to fine tune. And now it's actually, it's something that I incorporate, every single day, even at work. I mean, there's a lot of things and between staff and nurses and whatnot, and everybody has lives and children and maybe sick family members at home, and you have to learn how to juggle a lot of those things to keep the machine going. But it becomes, again, all about not about you. And as soon as you realize that it is not about you, that whenever you're in any leadership role, it's all about the people that you're serving by far, and you put yourself at the very end, and that's what it's all about. And then finally, another thing that I've kind of learned in my life, and that again I didn't really take advantage of at Notre Dame as well as I probably could have, was I tell my kids, work hard but pray harder, right? And so you know, so work as hard as you can. Nobody should ever outwork you. That's the one thing you can control. You can't control, you know, how smart you are and the kind of math gifts and science gifts or geography gifts that you've inherited, but you can definitely control your work ethic. But no matter how hard you work, you pray harder. And that's one thing that I've really gotten into becoming part of the fabric of my day-to-day life. Is I wake up about an hour before and I read my Magnificat daily prayer book, drink my coffee before the chaos of the kids and the breakfast and the running late and, you know, and all that stuff starts. And so that's something that that I've definitely has helped me in my life tremendously. And I wish I would have started that much earlier in my life. But and what better place to be at Notre Dame? I mean, so many places. We've all spent time in the grotto and the basilica, in your dorm chapel, but use it to your advantage. You're in a very holy place, and tons of resources to build your spiritual growth there. I mean, what better place in America, honestly?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Well, that's a great segue to our next question. Our closing question is, you know, how to be a mentee. I mean, you've talked a lot about mentoring and matching, but it's a two-way street. And if any of you can share anything about your best mentor-mentee relationships, so that those on the line, those listening, how do they approach you? What's their role? You know, what makes you respond and want to help somebody? Can we start with maybe, let's start with Alfredo, since I picked him last time.
Sure. The first step is asking for help, right? So I've had multiple mentors in my career, and I would have never thought they would have been my mentors if I didn't ask them for help. So I just reached out and I said, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I need to get into this, or I want to change careers, or whatever. I want to, you know, do something else. Can you help me out? And typically, people feel very good when they get approached in that way. I know that when somebody asks me, hey, will you be my mentor? Yes, sure, absolutely. I can help you with whatever you need, right? So it goes the same way. If you ask for help, I think that they will reciprocate. That's the first step.
Great. Kelly, can you tell us about a mentor you've had or a mentee and what that was like?
Wow, my parents come to mind first of all. My parents, my dad was a law enforcement, was in law enforcement for many years, always wanted to be a lawyer. Finally, my mom said, well, why don't you apply to law school? When they had 3 kids, all in elementary school, and they did it. And my mom supported him, went to a high school job, malt shop, to support him while he was in law school. And he concluded his legal career as a judge at the end. So I always look to both of my parents for mentorship with my professional career and family advice. I mean, if they can survive that, they can, you know, like, they're really great people to go to. But as far as mentee, I echo what Alfredo said. Most people, if you ask them for help, are going to say, heck yeah, let me show you the flow chart to success. And I didn't take advantage of that enough. The only people I would really ask, because you don't want to ask the dumb question to someone you look up to, right? You ask the dumb question to your parents because, you know, they think you're the smartest person ever. I mean, you went to Notre Dame, right? But ask for help. There really is not a dumb question. Most people embrace it and you'll be the better for it. So anyone can call me and I'd look forward to assisting them in any way that they need.
Excellent. Dr. Gomez-Meade, do you have any advice?
So, you know, we're all influenced by many, many people throughout our careers and lives, and they're all kind of like provide little nuggets of information that you end up carrying with you, or maybe tossing it aside if it's not good advice. But I've had several mentors. You know, we'd run out of time if I were to go down the list, but being a mentee is extremely important. I think it's something that is really important to give back. Something that my wife and I started doing this year was inviting medical students from around the country that wanted to maybe do what I want to do. My wife's a pediatrician. She's a pediatric endocrinologist. And we said, if anybody wants to rotate with me and spend a week or two, not only can you come, but you can stay at my house. And so, yeah, so we started hosting medical students in our extra bedroom of our house for the past year. We've had, I think, like 8 or 9, and they come from as far as California and New York and Florida and Colorado and all over the place. And they see what my life is like. And I tell them, you're going to see me wear a lot of hats. You're going to see me as a father. You're going to see me as a husband. You're going to see me cutting out skin cancers and reconstructing faces. And then you're going to see me have a church role at church playing the guitar, you know, and like all sorts of hats. But this is what I want them to get an idea of the full picture of the life of what we do. So not just maybe the professional life, but there's a lot more that goes involved with it, and a lot of it is family life, and of course running late for school and all that stuff. You know, and where's your backpack? You know, that kind of stuff. And so they get to see all that. So it's been a great opportunity for us to be able to do that, and it's been very fulfilling too.
Thank you. Thank you. You're all squeezing in some nuggets about how to keep balance in your life as well in this answer. Dr. Cigarroa, how does a mentee get your attention? What should a student do?
Well, I think echoing what Kelly said, I think what's important first as I guess as approaching a potential mentor is just to actually approach them. You know, going back to my mentors at Notre Dame, that first calculus professor, if I wouldn't have gone to his office hours and just asked him for help, then, you know, I wouldn't have gotten the help and probably would have failed the class. And so I think just letting your guard down and not, I don't want to say swallow your pride, but just ask for help, because there's so many people out there that are so willing to help, not just in the Notre Dame community, but outside of it as well, especially in the Notre Dame community, but outside of it as well. Now, as a mentor to mentees, I guess similar to Carlos with medical students that I've worked with, I just try to minimize, because I think in medicine, similar to other professions, there's like this hierarchy. And so, you know, a lot of people that are quote unquote under you under you, they defer a lot to you, and they're afraid to speak their mind or to be honest. But I always say, hey, call me Joaquin, you know, don't call me Dr. Cigarroa, because like, you know, and that kind of maybe makes me seem a little more approachable, and then they kind of open up. So I guess I just try to be approachable in the same way that my calculus professor was my freshman year. You know.
Well, thank you so much. We've now reached the end of our webinar. Again, muchas gracias on behalf of all of us at the Institute for Latino Studies, on behalf of all of our students at the University of Notre Dame. We appreciate so much your time. And we're really fortunate and honored to partner with all of you as part of the Hispanic Alumni Association of Notre Dame. So thank you so much. Buenas noches. And students, please reach out to latino@nd.edu. Let us know which mentor you want us to connect you to. We will certainly do that, as well as direct you to Irish Compass. So thanks for joining us today. Thank you, alumni who are on the line as well. We appreciate you. Thank you. Good night.
Go Irish, people, guys.